In this clip, I will share how to take the Level 3 essay exam. So here is a brief agenda. I'll first talk about 3 key points that you must keep in mind as you work through an essay exam. The first point has to do with managing your time. You need to answer very precisely and you need to write clearly. So I'll talk about this in a little bit of detail. Then I will tell you what you must not do on the exam. Next, I will share with you what the CFA Institute says on their website about taking the Level 3 exam. And finally, I will suggest some next steps. So the first key point is that you must manage your time. The Level 3 morning exam will start at 9 a.m. and it will go on till noon. So like all your other exams, this is a 3-hour exam. So 180 minutes, 180 points. You have several questions to answer. Typically, it's roughly 10 questions, but it could be plus or minus. And right up front, you are told that question 1 is 16 minutes, 2 is this many minutes. So I'm just presenting an example here. On your exam, the first question might be based on institutional investors, and it might be 12 minutes. So this is just an example. But when you get your exam and you see this page, the first thing I want you to do is write down the time at which you will finish each question. Now, I suggest that you just go in order. If there is a strong reason for you to do 3 first and then 1, you can do that. But spend a few minutes to document your times. Now, what do I mean by that? You are starting typically at 9 a.m. So you say that you'll be done with the first question by 9:16. Then the second question is 19 minutes, so you should be done with this by 9:35. The third question, 14 minutes, so you should be done by 9:49, and so on. So fill this out for all the questions. This way, when you are working on question number 3 and you hit this time, that means that you need to move on to the next question. So doing this allows you to make sure that you stay on time. So this is one piece of advice. Next, recognize that for every question, there will be parts, and each part will tell you how many minutes. So this might be question 1, part A. There will be some text, and then there's this question. So this is 4 minutes. This tells you that this is a 4-point question, and you need to stay within 4 minutes when answering this. So keep that in mind also. Don't get hung up, don't get carried away. If you are writing too much, then something is wrong. So make sure you stick within the allotted time. The second key point is that you must answer precisely. So answer exactly what you are being asked. So here is how I suggest you do this. First, read the question. Now, there will always be a case or some information, and then after that there is the question. So if you read the question quickly, here it is asking for the risk tolerance. Now you know what to look for when you read this. So once you know the question, then start actively reading the information presented. By actively reading, I mean that you go through this and you underline information that you think is relevant. So for example, if we are talking about risk tolerance, and then you read that their annual living expenses amount to this much, the after-tax salary increases will offset any future increases in their living expenses. This seems to be related to risk tolerance. So start making a note of these points, or start at least underlining them. Then read the question again before you answer. So that way we make sure that you understand exactly what's being asked for. So you are being asked for 2 reasons. That means you need to give just 2 reasons. Once you've read the question again, then think about how you will respond. If you want, you can jot down your rough points. But before you start giving your formal response in the space provided, you need to know what you are going to write. Once you are ready, then you start writing your answer. You need to stick precisely to what is asked. If the question says give 2 reasons, then you need to very clearly say reason 1 and reason 2, and then give those reasons. Follow instructions. So if the question says give your answer on page 3, then answer on page 3. If the question says give your answer in the template provided on page 4, then do just that. So you are answering the question and you are following instructions precisely. The next point is that you must write clearly. Now, what does that mean? First of all, recognize that the level 3 exam is a test of your knowledge and how well you can apply the knowledge. It is not a test of English grammar or spelling. Having said that, the examiner still needs to understand what you are saying. So what do you need to do? Your answers should be to the point. They need to be short, precise. Use bullet points. So this makes things very clearly. So if you are asked for 2 reasons, you can either give 2 bullet points or you can say 1 and 2. You can use well-known abbreviations. So you can say that if interest rates go up, then what happens? So well-known abbreviations like this can be used. If you are asked to show calculations, then do that. You should show your formulas and working, especially if the question says that you need to show your working. The point here is that even if you get the answer wrong, but you've given the formulas or you have shown your working, then chances are that you will get some partial credit. Write neatly. Now, this is not an English grammar test, but the examiner still needs to be able to understand what you are saying. I strongly recommend that you write big. So people who write very small letters, that is very annoying for an examiner or the grader. So write big. Keep your sentences and your words well spaced. If you know your writing is hard to read and you can show your writing to other people and they can tell you whether they can easily read your writing or not, but if you are one of those people with terrible handwriting, then I would strongly recommend that you avoid cursive writing. Write in block letters, and remember, you don't need to write too much. So you need to just write what is asked for you. You are not graded on the quantity of information provided, you are graded purely on the quality of what you provide. Key point is that the grader should be able to easily read what you are writing. The CFA Institute says that you can use an HB pencil or a number 2 pencil, or you can use blue or black ink pens. Now this is really up to you, depends on what you are more comfortable doing. You can cancel or erase your work, but do so neatly. My recommendation is that if you write something that you want to change, then clearly just cut this out. You don't need to do business like that because that looks very neat. So you just neatly cut out and then give your answer again. The CFA Institute will give you enough paper, so there will be way more space than you need. So you can write big, you can write neat, you can keep things spaced. If you need to cancel things out, you can neatly cancel out and then give your answer. But always think about your examiner. Your examiner or your grader needs to be able to clearly understand what you are trying to say. So those were the 3 points. You need to manage your time very carefully, answer precisely, write clearly. And notice that these 3 go together. If you are answering precisely and keeping your answers to the point, then it will be easier for you to manage your time. Having said that, over the years, I have noticed that several very smart students get out of the exam and then they complain that they could not finish their exam on time. And then they find out that they failed because the exam was not complete. So there are generally 2 reasons for leaving questions unanswered. When smart people or people who have studied very hard leave questions unanswered, that's because they have run out of time. Or if somebody hasn't studied enough and does not know the answer, they might leave it blank. But I strongly recommend that you don't leave anything blank. There is no negative marking, so you have to put something down. Now the solution to this first problem, running out of time, is what we have talked about. Err on the side of writing less. So get your key points in and move on. And here, I strongly believe that if you think about how much you write or the time that you take and the marks that you get, there is diminishing returns. So once you get your key points in, you have most of your marks. Spending more time writing might give you just a marginal amount of benefit. So as long as you are good enough, that's great, just move on. You have to stay within the time limit provided. Now, if you manage to get done earlier, that's great. Then you can go back, review your work, and where you feel you can add a useful point, you can do that. But while you are making your first run through the paper, err on the side of writing less. Now, what about a situation where you are not sure of the answer? There, instead of leaving the paper blank, you must write the most sensible thing that you can think of. If you feel a given formula is relevant, just put that formula down. Any point comes to your mind that might be vaguely related to what's being asked, just put that down. But don't spend much time on that. Just put the first thought that comes to mind, write it down, and move on. Never ever leave a question blank. And I hope you recognize why I'm saying that. If you leave something blank, the best you can get is 0 points. If you do write something, then there is a chance that the grader sees some sense in there and gives you partial credit. All right, now what you must not do. The first important point is that you must not write long-winded answers. And this is a particular problem for people who have studied very hard and know a lot and they want to impress the examiner. Also, people who have spent a lot of time going over guideline answers released by CFA Institute, or people who've gone through practice problems and then read the solutions at the end. Over there, you will have noticed long answers. Now, those long answers are provided by CFA Institute so that you can understand the concepts. So in those answers, not only are they providing answers, they are also trying to explain. And if they ask for 2 reasons in the question, the guideline answer might give 4 reasons because they are trying to tell you that all those 4 reasons are valid. But the way the guideline answers are written are not a template for what you need to do. If the question asks for 2 reasons, then you need to give 2 precise reasons and stop right there. Don't waste time adding more reasons. You must not write in general terms. So you need to answer the question precisely. If you make general remarks, that will just be a waste of time. The only time you could do this perhaps is if you have no clue and you want to quickly make a point and move on. So if you know the answer to a question, give your precise response and move on. And here this is so important that I'm repeating myself. You should never give more reasons than what is asked. All right, now on this slide, I have simply reproduced material from the CFA Institute website. Many of these points I've talked about, but I think every level 3 candidate should read exactly what the CFA Institute is saying. So they are telling you to follow instructions, they are telling you to manage your time, you should keep your answers short, bullet points are acceptable. So all these are points that I've also made, but I think it's important that you read exactly what is being said. So read through this, notice that they say that short phrases and bullet points are fine, common abbreviations are fine. If you are not sure whether an abbreviation is commonly understood or not, then write it out. But a good guideline here is that if you've seen certain abbreviations in the CFA Institute curriculum or in their guideline answers, then that means that it is good enough. All right, so now hopefully you have a general sense for how to deal with the level 3 essay exam. The question now is, what next? As you begin your studies, the key to doing well on the essay exam is to understand the content. Obviously, if you do not understand the content, you cannot write good answers. So step 1 really is to study hard, and here you can use IFT's videos and notes. And then you need to understand what the curriculum is trying to communicate. So study the content, understand the content. Once you've understood the content, the next step is to learn how to answer questions. I have given you some advice, but that advice now needs to be put in practice. So to understand exactly how to answer questions in a way that is efficient, you can watch IFT's sample videos. So here we are making available for you videos related to behavioral finance, where I walk you through how to answer actual questions that have appeared in past papers. If you are following my advice, then you probably are beginning your studies with behavioral finance. So as you study behavioral finance from our videos or notes or from the curriculum, and then you start answering questions at the back, before you actually start answering questions at the end of the curriculum or at the end of the readings, watch my videos where I show you how to answer in a structured bullet point format. So once you do that, then you actually work through the practice problems in the curriculum. These are really good practice, and the solutions in the curriculum are also very good, but the solutions are long-winded. You need to read those solutions, but the way you actually answer questions should be based on what you see in my sample videos. Initially, I recommend that you work through the curriculum practice problems, and as you get deeper into your studies, you can work through additional practice problems. These practice problems will be available on the CFA Institute website. You will also get practice problems from IFT, but that will come later. Initially, focus on the practice problems in the curriculum. That is it for now. And as I have always said to you, the key to success is lots of practice. So study hard and practice, practice, practice. And that will help ensure that you pass the level 3 exam in June.